Howdy folks, John here. Today we'll be reviewing Esky's 150 EC micro fixed pitched RC heli. Let's get started. I want to thank Esky for sending the 150 EC so we can all have a look at it. As usual, links will be down in the description if you want to check one of these little guys out yourself. This thing's got altitude hold apparently, and they're saying it's a perfect stepping stone up to your first single rotor helicopter. It is fixed pitched, but it's got full auto level and altitude hold as it says here. So inside the box there's the Esky radio. This is pretty standard for anyone who's had Esky helicopters before. So that's our 6-channel little radio. Comes with a set of instructions. Fairly good. Has all your parts for when you need to order parts for either repairs or maintenance. So that's nice to see. And then a troubleshooting guide at the back. So pretty basic, but covers the main things. Little like us card. What do we have here? Oh, we've got another battery. Oh, they sent me an extra battery, obviously. I doubt you'd probably get that with yours, but they were kind enough to send it so we can get several flights in. Now, let's look at the helicopter here first. Now, at first glance, you think, oh, wow, this is a Fenestron, but no, they've got a little clear tail rotor, a tri-rotor blade on the other side. So while it may look like a Fenestron, it's not a true, but it gives the appearance of it. And I can't wait to see how good the tail hold is. You'd think with this huge fin, you'd be limiting the thrust, but we'll see how it works out. Coreless tail motor. One thing that's really neat about all of Esky's micro helis is the way they integrate and protect the swash plate. It's down actually below the main bearing block. We'll see that when we open it up at the end of the video. And everything's well protected. The push rods actually come up through the mast and through the upper bearing. So it's well protected. Again, fixed pitch. So this can't do aerobatics or anything like a collective pitch 3D heli can, but for your first steps up to your first single rotor, a great stepping stone, and it looks great too if you like Fenestron tail rotors like I do. Let's just open this up. So to get the canopy off, you just pull it off of these little pins and it slides off. Coreless main motor as well. All the electronics, the flybarless system, ESC receiver, all of that is contained in this hard protective shell that the battery sits on top. And the batteries are kind of unique. You don't stick them on or anything. They've got a right angle exposed, what is that, a Pico plug, I guess they're called. And it plugs in like that. Very cool. Neat little design feature. And it's held in there really nice. And these are 150 milliamp hour 1S. And we get a little USB charger for them. So we'll get some packs on charge here right away. Comes with a small Phillips screwdriver as we saw. And 2 spare main blades. And oh, here's our spare tail blade. And you may be thinking these clear blades are very fragile and brittle, but these ones are actually flexible. So it'll be very hard to break it, but it comes with a spare one, which is good to see. So let's get these batteries charging up and go for a flight. Charging the batteries, just plug in the little USB charger. You get a little green power indicator and just plug the pack in. Like so. Oop, wrong way. I guess that makes sense. You want to see the light. So light turns red when it's charging. To save time here, I'm just going to parallel charge 3 at one time with my little computerized charger here. The radio, or transmitter if you wish to call it that, takes 4 AA's. power it up, just holding the power button for several seconds. It beeps and a little blue indicator comes on. Just touch on the radio quality while we're looking at the transmitter here. You know, I would consider this a toy radio, but these are really quite decent. For anyone who saw that 150 Bell 222 Airwolf review, we took one apart, and the build quality inside is very good. The gimbals themselves, they have aluminum gimbal ends, which are adjustable, so you can extend them out if you find them too short. The gimbal feel itself is really nice. There's no slop in the center like a lot of toy radios, and the spring tension is very consistent. It's not loosey-goosey in the center and gets really stiff on the end. It's consistent throughout travel range. The throttle or collective, well in this case it's throttle because it's fixed pitch, very smooth, no problems there. And you've got two toggles on the top. This is throttle hold or throttle cut. So in green it will allow you to power up the rotors. In red it kills the power. And if you're going to crash a little micro, always best to kill the power before you hit anything. That way the energy released is as low as possible and goes a long way to save the helicopter. And then this little toggle here says high and low. It's not only dual rate. In low position, this is what enables the altitude hold function. And as long as the stick's somewhere in the center position, the heli should hold a fixed altitude, which we'll find out. In high mode, it eliminates altitude hold, so you've got just a nice linear throttle control here. It also increases your cyclic. Packs are all done charging, so let's see if this thing comes pre-bound, which it says it does. So we'll turn on the radio again, and we will plug our pack in. That's always the sequence you want to do. And there we go. It's communicating. So solid green, solid blue. We've got control. Now to power this thing up, you have to take it off throttle hold, and the blades will start turning immediately. Very slow, but the only way to turn them off is you can't pull low stick, you have to engage throttle hold. And they do that so the blades won't turn off while you're flying it, which would reduce torque. Obviously you'd lose cyclic authority as well, and you get a tail blowout then when you give it power. So a lot of micros are starting to do this now, where they keep the rotors turning slowly even at low stick. Now if yours didn't come pre-bound, the binding procedure is very simple. So you don't turn on the radio first, you plug the you power up the helicopter first. And when it's in bind mode, the blue LED will be flashing fast, as will the green one. And to put the transmitter into bind mode, you hold the rudder trim. This is mode 2, so rudder's on this side. Rudder trim over to the right as you power it up. And you just keep holding it in until it beeps. There, our green has gone solid, blue has gone solid, and we've got communication. So that's how you bind it if it didn't come pre-bound. Flying the Esky 150 EC. We're in indoor low mode, so the auto altitude is engaged. Disengage the rotors, throttle hold is on now. Take it off. Don't know how well the auto altitude will work in here because we've got different surface levels. It works for crap. I don't know how it's working. Is it barometric pressure? Oh, it's just horrible. Uncontrollable, pretty much. Maybe it needs to get established or something. Didn't say anything in the instructions. Oh, there we go. It's holding altitude pretty good there. Not really impressed though with the auto altitude. So I'm going to land it. I'm going to go into just normal mode. Also with the auto altitude, it's very vague. You've got a very vague control of your throttle speed because the barometric pressure or whatever is being used is in direct control of it. So now I've switched to high mode, so we've got direct one-to-one throttle control. Oh, way better. Night and day difference. The more they add to stuff, the more it complicates things and makes it fly worse. Might be okay for real beginners, that altitude hold, or maybe in a room without any obstacles. But I like this normal mode much better. Stabilization is excellent. As soon as you center the stick, it'll drift a little ways for momentum, but well trimmed out of the box. It's cool seeing that little red LED on the tail fan. Oh, and I don't know if you're seeing this. The little fenestron blades are actually spinning. We'll take a look at that on the bench. Must be the airflow from the tail rotor is making those little fenestron blades spin. What a neat little detail. So it's got quite a hard right lean, as we can see, induced by the left tail rotor translating tendency. And that's causing it, you can do nice coordinated banking turns to the right here. We're in too tight of a space. We're going to go outside later, see how it handles all the wind outside. But doing left coordinated turns, much more difficult. You pretty much just have to use tail rotor, rudder stick to do left turns. Don't even try to induce any bank, because then it just drifts out. Yaw rate, consistent in both directions. If you yaw real slow because of that left, or because of that right lean, it really wants to drift. So I'm not inducing that cyclic drift. That's just from the lean with yaw. We'll try left here. Not as bad. You have to push forward on cyclic to stop it, or at least get it under control. So it is manageable. There we go. That's full climb out. Seems to be handling the breeze from the ceiling fans okay. Like I said, it's really blowing outside. Little fixed pitch micros don't like wind, so see how it does outside, but it looks fantastic. No denying that. Fun little indoor flyer, no doubt. See outside. Okay, before going outside, I thought we'd try this altitude hold again, because I wasn't convinced that doing it up in the loft was the best method, plus taking it off on an elevated coffee table, probably not ideal. So we're in the shop here, and it is working better. I won't say it's perfect, but when auto altitude is on, a little blue LED will light up, meaning it's at a fixed altitude. If we increase the throttle, the blue light will go off until it gets to its new altitude. So as long as that little blue LED is on, that's the altitude it's going to lock onto. And it works pretty well. So if you're a beginner and you're using auto altitude, just make sure you're in a wide open space like this, and don't take off from an elevated platform. You want to take off from a fixed level surface. See outside. Okay, as you can see, it's very windy out. Micro fixed pitched helis and wind, not a good combination. You got to be out of your auto altitude in high rates to have enough authority in this kind of stuff. We'll see how it goes. It's handling the wind no problem. Yeah, it's getting lofted. more than a collective would. But for a fixed pitch micro, in this kind of breeze, very cool. Easy to see. I love this color scheme. Yeah, you got to throttle right down when you're caught in translational lift. It's getting lofted up there. But for this kind of wind, it's a little challenging, no doubt. But hey, I'll take this. As you can see, right banking coordinated turns, much easier than left. Left, it's hard to induce a bank because of that right lean. But it's a little fixed pitch micro. We can't expect too much from them. Oh, she's getting tossed around. Love it. And with that, let's go back to the shop and we'll go over the technical aspect of this very cool little helicopter. Now we get into the technical portion of the Esky 150 EC review. First, we'll start with size. And it is a small little guy, as we can see, comparing it to a larger scale heli with a fenestron. This is an 800 size machine. And this little guy would almost fit through the fenestron duct. Now, I have no idea how Esky sizes their RC helicopters. Of course, they're calling this a 150, and it's certainly not a 150 if you go by the standard method of heli sizing, bolt hole to blade tip, measurement in millimeters. This would be closer, let's round it up to a 75 size machine. However, it is the exact same size as their 150 little Airwolf. And to get an idea of what a 150 size machine actually is, this is actually a 130, and as you can see, it's quite a bit smaller than even a 130. My guess is they're going by actual rotor diameter, not rotor blade length. And the diameter on this thing is 168 millimeters. As far as weight goes, flying weight, so we've got the heli with the battery. We'll go in grams first. Is that showing up or too much glare? So we're looking at about 37, 38 grams, 1.3 ounces. So well below the 250 gram weight limit that a lot of countries are imposing as far as RC flying restrictions. I still think that's so cool how they have made this little free spinning fenestron at the back spin with the airflow. It's just a nice little detail. You know, I'm really actually impressed how well they have done that tail. And it's quite strong, you know, for a little scale micro. You know, I always recommend never to learn on a scale heli because the scale details are so fragile. But this thing is actually very robust. You know, it's got the nice strong nylon struts. You can come down hard. It won't break it. Probably the easiest thing to snap off of here are the little finlets, the horizontal and vertical stabilizer fins on the boom. The boom itself is even quite strong. Anyway, to get into this thing, they've made it very easy. There's one little screw at the bottom. We'll use the included Phillips screwdriver that came with the kit here. And you just remove that. And we can pop the front canopy off. And then there's two more little Phillips screws on the side here. And then this just slides right out. And then the tail motor and light, they're just on the one wire. The light gets its power right off of the motor. And it's just plugged in on this little plug at the back here. I don't want to force this out. There we go. Just make sure you get the polarity right. So black wire at the top when you plug it back in. So there's the shell, if you had to get a new one. And this tail rotor comes out. There's three little Phillips screws to get this bezel out. And then you can pop the little tail motor out. The wiring is fairly well protected there. Focus, getting a little too close there. But it could get caught on something. So that's one thing to watch out for, that those wires don't get pinched. Kind of be nice to see that somehow a little bit better protected, but not bad at all. And the tail rotor is just held on by friction. It just slides over the coreless motor shaft there. No problems. Now, this is what's so cool. So we've got little linear servo motors, 2 of them. One on each side for pitch and roll on your cyclic. There's the little coreless motors that drive them. This is fiber reinforced plastic, very strong, so it's practically impossible to destroy any of the electronics in here. And like I said, there's the swash plate sandwiched right in the middle of all this, very well protected. And there's our gear. If you ever stripped out a gear, very easy to change. Here's 2 little Phillips screws on the bottom. Pull the gear out, fire a new one on. Metal shaft, very neat design. Finishing up with some final thoughts on the Esky 150 EC. As a Fenestron fanboy, of course I'm impressed with it. Fanboy. I'm here all week. Anyway, just very impressed with the overall appearance of this little machine. It looks great in the sky, nice bright colors, easy to track it and see it, which is always appreciated on a micro. And true, the Fenestron is simulated, but just having those little spinning blade details in there from the airflow from the tail rotor, I think that's so cool. And the little red light is a neat little touch. Flies very well, as we saw. Really, anyone could pick this up and be flying it in no time. I would call this beginner friendly, even though it is scale. It's tough, just as tough as any other pod and boom in this size segment. So I think most people would have no problem with it. Now, as far as flight times go, I was averaging about 4 minutes. You could take it to 5, like it says in the instructions, but you're seriously over discharging the batteries if you do that. I only did it a couple times and the batteries were well below 80% discharge, pretty much 100%, and they won't last long if you keep doing that to them. So I would time my flights for 3.5 to 4 minutes. And the thing I'm most impressed with it is how well it handled the wind outside. That's something that you typically don't expect on small little micro fixed pitched helicopters. Usually because they've got the delta shaped rotors that spin very slowly and they just can't handle wind. These of course are using a straight rotor blade design, more traditional, spinning at a higher speed. So it can handle the wind, but that of course introduces the one complaint I have about it, and that is the hard right lean, because those blades are spinning faster, producing more torque. Tail rotor has to work harder, and because of all that left tail rotor translating tendency, you've got to have the lean in there to equalize things. Can't change the laws of physics, I'm afraid. And that hard right lean is introducing some unwanted flight characteristics. As we saw, almost impossible to initiate a nice coordinated left banking turn. Rights, of course, are effortless because the lean is already built in. And that right lean is also causing pirouettes to drift out quite badly. But I suppose if the compromise is being able to fly it outdoors in a breeze, I'd think for most people that's probably a good compromise. And excellent value here that I'm happy to add to the scale fleet. I want to thank Esky again, and if you want to check these little guys out, product links below in the description. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you next time. Happy flights. One more thing we'll try. We'll see how robust it is. I'm going to kill the power and crash into the lawn. Weighs so little, nothing to break, provided you land in a soft lawn.